It's always been an insecurity in myself, that the fear that they may sell and I can't find something, and like, where would I be? Like, I have a child to look after, where would I be living? So I always had that fear when I was in private rental, always. I love that I've got my own place, and it feels quite secure. I feel, I don't know, I feel like after all these years I've achieved something. For me, it feels great. I'm also very nervous because, I'm hoping I can, my anticipation I'll work for another couple of years, even though I could retire now, because now I don't have the backup of my super. So once again, I feel secure but insecure, if you can understand that.
I ended up here because when I first moved in, I had, it was just me and my youngest son, who was 5 at the time. Oh no, 7 at the time. But I was living in a real dump because I had been living in a nice unit at New Farm with my partner and our child. And he left in the middle of the night one night and left me with all the bills. And so therefore I had nowhere to live because I couldn't afford to live there anymore. I moved into this really old house. And when I say old, there were big holes in the floorboards and everything, but it was all I could afford. Like the front stairs actually fell off and things like that. And it was so awful. The view was great, but the house was falling down around us. It was the kind of house where I had to actually sleep with my son because there would be rats crawling on him at night. And I got one of the last units in one of the first buildings in Kelvin Grove. But even then, it was a big fight because my old house I was paying like $175 rent, and this place was $180. And they quibbled over the fact whether I would be able to afford the extra $5.
I'd been married for 66 years, and I'd actually been in China for 6 months, or nearly 6 months, as an English teacher at a university over there. And I came back to discover that my husband had used all the equity and everything we ever had. It appears he was a gambler, that I wasn't. I mean, I knew he bought the occasional lotto ticket, but I was not aware the amount. And not long after I returned home from overseas, we got messages from the bank that the house was being repossessed and all sorts of things. So, I mean, we'd had an occasional rocky marriage, but it was completely out of the blue for me.
Did you ever feel that you might have been homeless?
Till that point, no. Until that point, we had reasonable assets, but it was all gone.
This house was an opportunity presented to me when I found myself without a job, and the owner of the property I'd been renting previously for 25 years wanted to sell the house. So I lost my job and my home in the same week. I've never owned a home, no. Like, I was never in a position to get a loan for a home, really. I never earned enough money. And as a sole parent, I never had assets, really, that I could use either. Yes. And I never got an inheritance or any bucket of money come my way that would have given me a hand up into ownership. But I've never been really sure that I wanted to own my own home, to be honest with you. I don't know. I've questioned really that kind of that model that we have in Australia of home ownership being the only way you can have secure housing. I'm not sure that that's true necessarily, and it shouldn't have to be true either. I think it should be that we, as citizens of a nation this wealthy, with so few of us, should be able to house our citizens really well in a range of models.
We were renting a house in Emu Park in central Queensland on the coast. We were overlooking Great Keppel Island. Absolutely gorgeous home. We were watching the whales breach from our back deck. And we were going to stay there until we retired, at which point we were then our plan was to buy a Winnebago or, something like that so that we could travel. And then on the morning of the 19th of September 2013, I went downstairs at 4:10 in the morning and I found my husband on the kitchen floor. He had suffered a fatal heart attack. My world stopped and everything changed. I couldn't afford the rent at the time on a part-time salary. However, because we knew the owners, fortunately, they reduced the rent from $500 a week to $250 a week for as long as I needed to stay there. I didn't want to take advantage of that, so I went anywhere where I thought, a job would come up or I'd get a job that sounded interesting, and it happened. The first one happened to be in Canberra, so off I went. I was working full time. I was living in an apartment in Braddon in Canberra. It was great. I loved it. And then the company I was working for closed its doors. So here I was trying to pay $400 a week for a one-bedroom apartment, and I didn't have a job. Fortunately, I got another job. It was only temporary for 6 months. During that time, I then found another job in Narrandera, so I moved out there. And I was there for 2 years, and now I'm back here in Toowoomba because I've got family here, and now I want to settle here. But, it's such a... it's so unsteady. But for so long, it was like being on a knife's edge.